All right, Christina, you want to jump on into it, and I'll have you summarize the slides, and we'll talk about the underwriting. I think the first one we're going to be looking at is the
The
suburban in
suburban.
Lakeland, Florida. Yep.
So
Why don't
it
we go
is
ahead and go ahead?
built in 2000, December 2000, 138 keys. Hotel opened in December 2000. Um, here are the pictures of the hotel. It has kitchenettes.
Can you back up one, and do we what size lot is it on? Go ahead and read the
Uh,
entire property summary. So, what's the acreage? How many
3.18,
parking spaces? Okay.
3.18 acres, and the parking spaces are 137.
Okay,
The
so it's a one-to-one
ratio
parking.
is, yeah, 1:1.
Okay. So this one has all kitchenettes inside of it?
Not all the 137 as confirmed with Lucas, but
Okay,
not sure exactly how many rooms have kitchenettes, but not all the 137 rooms have kitchenettes.
got it. We should probably circle back with Lucas and get that.
Yeah, the information. So here are the pictures of the hotel. Here are the parking spaces.
As an aerial view.
The aerial
Roof looks
view.
like it's in good shape. Yep. Don't be shy, Christina. Come on, keep on talking. You got this.
And here's the location. There are hotels nearby, the La Quinta, the Howard Johnson. Would you like me to check on these hotels?
Well, I mean, possibly if they're
Yeah,
available for sale.
there are hotels nearby, surrounded by
All right.
commercial, commercial area. And here are the analytics. Absorption rate is -8. Um, Market exit price is 190,000. Vacancy rate is 5.8%. Population growth is 5%. And the studio asking rate is 1,086.
Okay.
And here are the rents in the area, pulled from
Yeah,
rental meter.
I remember you were talking about this yesterday. There's one rent
Yeah,
to comp that's pretty low.
yeah, $1.57 per square feet
Yeah, that's
in
pretty
Lakeland.
low per square foot.
Per square foot, sorry. And here is the underwriting. So the asking price of this hotel is 13 million. So it doesn't pencil at its asking price. The room sizes is 301 square feet. So the rents went to $694 because it's averaging from $2.31 per square foot.
Okay.
But I will circle back with Lucas to check on the kitchenettes to see if we still have. So we'll move on the next one.
Sure.
So the next one is the Plaza Hotel in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale was it 272 rooms, right?
Yes, this has 272 keys, built in 1974. So it has 5.37 acres. with 240 parking spaces.
Okay.
And here is the pictures of the hotel. And here's the aerial view of the hotel. And here's the location. Also located, also sits beside hotels. La Quinta Extended Stay. And the analytics, the vacancy rate is 4.9. Market exit price is 217,000 per key. Absorption
door.
rate is set per door, sorry. Absorption rate is 74, and the population growth is negative 0.2.
Okay.
And here are the rents pulled from the
large-
rental meter. Sorry.
How large are these rooms? This is
The rooms are 301 square
this is
square
the 300.
feet.
Okay, thanks.
Also 301 square. So here are the rent comps pulled from rental meter. And here is the underwriting. We submitted an LOI yesterday for 20 million. So
Right.
that is for
Thanks,
the
Christina.
hospitality conversion.
Were
So
you
Christina,
nervous, Christina?
on that previous foil where you showed the comps, it looked
Okay.
like most of those comparables were 500 and 600 square feet. And I'm just
Yeah.
curious how you feel the 300 square feet room will play in comparison.
Because in the rental meter, we can't pull comps like 300 square feet.
Right.
The minimum comps that we can pull from rental meters are 500 square feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand. So what does that mean for your business plan, I guess is what I'm asking.
I can speak to Christina. So, but what we
Okay.
do is we take the dollar per square foot and then we apply that to the square footage of the unit. So if it's $2.54, we just multiply that by the 350 square feet to arrive at the rent. Depending on the amenities offered at the location, we can even charge a slight premium of 10 to 20% additional dollar per square foot, because usually you get economy of scale with the larger units.
I see. Okay, I see. And your past history has shown that that works pretty well to be able to use that same price per square foot plus a small premium. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're able to deliver brand new assets to the market that are a little bit more affordable. So the individual will be able to get the higher end unit at a more reasonable cost.
I see. Okay.
But it's important to weigh out the comps and like especially the amenities offered to ensure that we're
Gotcha.
like for like. Christine, do you want to give me the screen sharing abilities?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, let me pull this up, guys. Good to be back. And I've gone for a little bit here. Hope everyone's doing well. I know Stephen and Dan have been holding it down. All right, we got two properties for review today. Actually, one of these is submitted by Manpreet. This one here, 19 Tucker Drive, Poughkeepsie. Manpreet, are you on the call? Looks like he's not able to make it today. But he's been doing a great job submitting probably 15 to 20 different properties a week, and most recently pulled data from Radius Plus to start scouting and identifying undersaturated markets for self-storage, and this being one of them here in Poughkeepsie, New York. It is a suburb of New York City, affluent town with a lot of commuters that want to work in the city but not live there, a strong median household income, and a strong density of population as well. So this is an industrial building, about 133,000 square feet, that we're looking to convert into self-storage. And it's on a rather large lot, so we'll be exploring vehicle storage as well, especially when we see industrial zoning. Take a look at the property summary here. Built in 85, shows 122,000 here. The market material shows 133. Tall ceilings at 24 feet on 10 acres. Zoning IH for industrial here. Just pristine building. As we kind of get into the pictures of it, you can see it's well kept and manicured. There appears to be no issues with the roof, HVAC. We're in discussions with the broker right now to kind of get more disclosures towards it, but on its face, it's looking promising.
Hey, Nick, quick
Yeah.
question about that 24-foot height. I know some time ago I'd been in a call and I think I asked about whether you would ever double stack storage units inside, especially climate control. And I think the answer at the time was no. That would be the case here too, right?
No,
seems like
it
they
would
would-
be permissible. You would need at least 24 feet to have 10-foot ceilings for each floor. In this case, we have such a large building basis on its own that we wouldn't necessarily need that much storage in one location. So
Right.
we'd run into the challenge of leasing up, 260,000 or call it 220,000 leasable square feet of
Right.
self-storage. Based on the saturation, it would probably benefit us more to have a sister site, maybe 3 to 5 miles away in the same town with the same demographics, but a less saturated area.
Makes perfect sense. I was really thinking about the heating and cooling costs for that big cavernous building.
Yeah,
know,
that's something to definitely explore too as we get deep into the underwriting under contract. I will say that for ground up self-storage, we've been exploring a 3-story model to limit the footprint of the building, thus reducing costs for paving, grading. So we'll find land development that is ideal, but if there's some grading challenges, for example, Peters Creek Parkway, we presented on a couple of months back. We're waiting to get the landscape architect engineer to give us insights into how much it would cost to level the land to make it developable. But one strategy we pursued there was going more vertical to limit this footprint of the building, thus limiting the amount of grading needed.
Interesting. Well, it also occurs to me you could possibly do unheated vehicle storage inside, like on that entire right wing,
Yeah.
arrange
Yeah,
for it.
no, the enclosed vehicle storage is definitely a good play in a fluid population like this. I think the challenge there becomes the CO2 sensors and some of the liability around having automobiles run, but I'm sure with that much ceiling height, you probably have a good air circulation.
I see.
We've actually
Good
kind of
point.
looked at potentially larger storage units, similar to a drive up, maybe like a 12 by 30 to do like individual condos or parcels for vehicle storage in that capacity.
Interesting. Thanks.
Of course, love the engagement. I'm just taking a look at the surrounding city here. In the picture, we can see supporting retailers, just kind of a busy commerce area. Looks like we have a mall over here, high school, 2 major freeways, 55 and 44. So all things we want to see to generate traffic and visibility. It's off a major street here, has frontage to help with lease up. And then you can see the residential population surrounding it. So as far as being embedded in the right area, it definitely checks all the boxes. And we'll continue forward. Diving into the demographics here, we have the 3 and 5 mile population, the strong density. This is actually, Dan caught this 2010 census data. So comparing this to Crexy, we're actually seeing about 91,000 on the 3 mile and 185,000 on the 5 mile. So because of that, our initial view of the saturation was a little bit concerning, but when we adjusted for the 2023 population, we actually found that it's a very unsaturated market with the ability to be leased up. Diving into the underwriting here, we went straight forward with just self-storage or 4 different mixes here, from 5 by 10 up to 10 by 20. And we can see really strong rates on the 10 by 10 here at $198. So some of the strongest rates we've seen across the country. Anything above 150, we're getting excited. When you get into that $200 range, it makes everything so much easier from a conversion standpoint. The purchase price they have listed is 4.9 million. We came in at a strike price of 4 million. With the associated returns over here, it still pencils and still a hell of a deal at 4.9, but obviously we want to see what price we can get it for. And part of that decision was because it's been on the market for about 1,100 days. Baked in for the unit interiors, we have $40 a square foot or 5.3 million. Maybe because the building's in good standing, nothing extra for the exterior facade. As we continue to work the model, we'll explore vehicle storage, see the jurisdiction's appetite for that. But you can see here, we're seeing over a 4x return on investment capital, 33% IRR, and 100% refi capital. Any questions on this property, comments before I move on to the second one?
How did you determine cap rate here?
So we've been actually exploring that recently, and we've used a couple different websites to assess cap rates for self-storage. Conservatively, we'll look at an exit in 5 to 7 years of maybe a 6.5 to 7 cap. But currently we're seeing Class A facilities trade as low as 4.9 to the 5.3 range. So we've taken it from, a 5.8 on the perm debt side, the refinancing stage, maybe 24 months in, and an exit at like 6.2 for these Class A facilities. And that was just based on literature we found from CBRE and several other websites that have been assessing the cap rates of self-storage. Great question. So that 6.5% is relatively conservative. It very well could be trading in the low 5s upon exit, which would obviously bolster the return significantly. This slide got put in the back here. Just a quick overview of the overall demographics of the market. We can see that 5.6 and 6.4 square foot per capita on the 3 and 5 mile radius. Anything below 8 will determine as a market that has a potential for additional lease up. Because of the strong population size at 91 and 134K, additional 133,000 square feet would only induce maybe an extra 1.2 to 1 square foot per capita on that. So we'd still be well below the 8. We can see about a 46% climate control mix in there. So it's at that stabilization of 50-50. But definitely a place like New York with harsh winters, hot, humid summers, that's going to be in demand. Population growth strong at 3% on both radiuses, 80,000 for the median household income. We can see a high multifamily percentage for the existing population, which would also suggest increased demand for self-storage. Second property for review today. This is actually in my backyard, Latrobe Road in El Dorado Hills. It's a suburb of Sacramento, probably about 30 minutes away from where I live. This property was actually not on my radar originally. It was brought to me by a broker who we had placed an offer in on a similar plot of land, maybe half a mile from here. Interesting to this story is we ready to go under contract for that other property in El Dorado Hills. We met the price for the seller. Everything looked good. We went to the county to find timelines for entitlements and permits. And they said 1.5 to 2 years. I think Steve and I's hearts sank literally right when we heard that. But we still went back to the seller and said, hey, look, this is the timeline. Yeah, can you work with us on this? And it's still in negotiation. But interesting enough, I walked this property yesterday with our operator from S3, Barry, and we like this property better. It's more than double the size, which is concerning because we definitely only need maybe 5 to 6 acres here, unless we're able to pursue vehicle storage, which the county has said is a no-go. But the location being off of a major road here with well over 20,000 vehicles per day is much more appealing than the original property found. So this is just a good example of how broker relationships are paramount to finding the right leads. Oftentimes the ones that are off market or maybe missed on your radar could be the ones you actually want. Diving into the demographics here, we can see a high saturation on the 3 mile at 10.2, acceptable on the 5. And we push this forward because the population growth here at 28%, that is actually accurate. Just south of this plot of land here, there's 10,000 homes being built in the Folsom and El Dorado Hills area, as well as brand new Class A multifamily developments. And they'll be delivering thousands of apartments in addition to those 10,000 homes. So we anticipate during the build out and lease up that this will curve the square foot per capita and increase the lease up, making this a very viable project. Household income is another thing that stood out for this property at 101 and 107K. It's one of the most affluent cities in the country, a lot of business owners, and the CCREs and the surrounding neighborhoods here prevent any kind of outdoor storage or vehicle storage on their property. So there will be a likelihood that these houses will need to find additional storage space in lieu of using their garage. We came in at $3.5 million strike price for this property, listed for 4.3. The reason why this one was even more appealing to you is it's 1 year into the entitlement process for the conditional use permit of self-storage. The original purchaser had the intention of developing self-storage, has gone through the entitlement process, and for whatever reason, the primary equity partner needs to divest and liquidate this project. So we're looking to take it over and finish the rest of the way. One of the big challenges we're facing right now is what to do with the remaining, call it 6 to 7 acres, how we can subdivide that, sell it off to potentially a retailer, develop pad sites, do something to offload it. The deal could bear the load at $3.5 million, but obviously we want to create more generous returns. It's an aerial shot here. We can see Life Storage just adjacent to it across the street. Now picturing here's another brand new Class A facility called Superior Self Storage. And if we panned out, we'll see a massive amount of residential surrounding this. Here's just some of the pictures of homes on the opposite side here as well. Tremendous neighborhoods and even further growth. This probably will do the best shot here. So here's the subject site. Right here, the El Dorado Town Center is a very vibrant retail, restaurant, entertainment venue. So it generates a ton of traffic off of Highway 50 here. And you can see all the homes built here. They continue to pan out as you go south. And covered up by some of these logos here, you can see the development that's going in place for those 10,000 homes that are being built, as well as down here. So just a tremendous growth area and what's really helping to push this opportunity forward. For this project to work, we looked at 150,000 square feet of self-storage development. We included some 5x5 mixes because market analysis showed a lot of offerings below 5x10. So we wanted to be similar to the surrounding market and be able to offer like for like. We can still see a very strong 10x10 rate here at $180 for climate controlled. Another reason why this was being pushed forward. So Bo, good question on the cap rates here. And ironically, a slide on this presentation, you can see a summary here from one of the websites looking at Class A, B, and Class C self-storage facilities. So you can see that 4.9 to 5.3 as a current cap rate for Class A self-storage facilities.
This is from apartmentloanstore.com.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
So just kind of interesting. Always important to stay up to date with these. We've been looking at these properties for well over a year, and obviously there's been compression and expansion of cap rates throughout different asset classes and areas of the country. Quick look at the final part of the underwriting. We put an offer in at $3.5 million. Developing the land, we'll look at about anywhere from $5 to $10 a square foot for the paving, in addition to $80 a square foot for the ground up development of that self-storage facility. And it will realize these returns here. Some of what's bogging down the IRR and the multiplier is just simply the extra acreage that we did not factor into this model to sell off. We're still exploring that option, but we want to make sure that the deal itself is a go before moving forward with any kind of LOI discussions or PSAs.
How much would land go for there? The opportunity represented.
We're seeing
land with that huge development going there. Seems like it would be increased now.
Yeah. Well, it'll come down to the zoning. This one is, gosh, I'm having trouble. Oh, research and development, kind of a weird one. So the applicable uses will also dictate the value of it. We're seeing listings at $5 to $8 a square foot. So you bring that up to an acre times, 43,000. You could be seeing an additional like 250 to 300,000 an acre at the high ends and maybe 150 to 200,000 on the low end.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So to kind of summarize on this, really exciting opportunity. I got some more here. Before I do that, just competitor analysis. You can see there's a density on the 5 mile. They are all in the same area, which is actually synergistic to our approach here because it'll bring cross promotional traffic, other people looking at similar sites. That's a big thing we're exploring with S3 right now is like, how do we differentiate ourselves within the market? And one way to do that is to combine self-storage with the vehicle, boat, and RV. So our plan actually is to continue to pursue this project, but look for other vacancies of land in this adjacent area that has different zoning that would allow for vehicle storage. Two of the competitors here, we can see where we pulled the rates from, Superior being the newest and biggest in the area, just a mile down the street. Again, a summary slide here for the overall project. Definitely an exciting one. After walking the property, we feel really good about this opportunity, but we're looking to leverage other listings and other potential plots of land close by to begin development, and then look towards developing sister sites within the area. So that concludes our presentation for today. I'll turn it over to the audience if there's any questions, comments.
Dan, did
When
you have
you
something
put
you
your
wanted
data-
Dan, did you have something you wanted to present today? I know you're driving.
Yeah,
Wasn't sure.
I'm okay for right now. I messaged Christina if we want to kind of just touch lightly on that 3040 property. We could kind of
Yeah.
start the process of that.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Great job, Nick. Thanks for the presentation.
Yep, it's good to be
thanks.
back with you guys.
Quick question. Do you pull your data from like CoStar or like your MSA data?
We'll use Radius Plus for the demographics. We cross-reference it with Crexi for the population size and growth. And then we'll also kind of look at CoStar for some of the financial data.
Okay, got it.
We try to get as much supporting evidence to feel good about like, hey, we're seeing this consistently across the board.
All right. Well, I'll jump into 3040 Poso here. What Steve and I had talked about is kind of walking everybody through kind of start to finish on how we identify the properties and what we're looking for. And I think 3040 Post is kind of one of those that kind of fits the criteria of exactly what we want to see in a property. So if we can go to the next slide, Christina.
And this is a office complex, correct, Dan?
Yes, this is for office to multifamily conversion. This property was built in 1982, and it sits on about a little over 4 acres. It's got a 7-story parking garage attached to it as well. It's 22 stories tall and just over 426,000 square feet. Very similar to the Ricci Towers that we looked at previously and that we walked last week. And go ahead and go to the next slide, Christina.
Dan, do you know how many days this has been on the market?
I do not recall how long it's been on the market for. This one was given through a broker relationship, so I didn't have that information like Crexi gives or LoopNet might give. But here's a general look at the outside of the building. You can see it's in great shape. Really a beautiful building from the outside. You can even see there's a little bit of a pond down there at the bottom of the lake or at the bottom of the building. A few other pictures of the building, and it's got a really kind of narrow rectangular shape, which we're finding is ideal for these conversions because it minimizes the amount of dead space that we have in the middle of the properties. Next slide. Here's a few renderings from inside the property as it is as the office right now. Next slide. A few more of the outside and kind of some of the sitting areas, a few fountains and things like that as well out there. Next slide. There's a shot of one of the ponds. I believe there's 2 ponds or 3 ponds maybe that are connected to the property. Next slide. A few more shots from inside as well. Next slide. And here's a little bit more of an overview of the location. Here you can see the ponds, and looks like there's a little bit of I don't know if that's a street or a little bit of a walkway possibly as well. Just kind of really a nice setup, I think. A few of the other office buildings located there. You can just see it from above how skinny that building is as well. Next slide. And this property is just kind of southwest of downtown Houston. It's really in a prime location and kind of a, from what the broker tells me, up and coming location in the Houston area. It's right across from the Galleria Mall that's down there. And I guess the Galleria is a very desirable location. This property also is sitting at about 57% vacancy. So it is kind of what we're finding ideal for these conversions. It allows us to have a little bit of income coming in to help support the cost of the conversions as we go through this process. Next slide. And then again, there's a better shot of the property itself and the parking garage that is adjacent to it as well. Next slide. And here's a look at the analytics. Mild population growth, slightly negative absorption, but the exit prices and the rents are okay down there. As we will work through the underwriting on it, we'll get a little bit better of a determination of how the property is looking. Next slide. And that's it. And then hopefully next week, as Nick and I have been diving into the underwriting on this property, hopefully we'll have a little bit more to share as we work through the process and dig deeper into that underwriting. Any questions from anybody?
Fantastic, Dan. What's the asking price?
The asking price is 60 million on this property. I think that's
60 million.
largely based off. Yeah, I think it's largely based off of the pro forma, what they think that the property can create in revenue. As we're kind of digging through some of those numbers with the OM and the rent rolls and things like that. Spoke with the broker, and I think we're going to be somewhere probably in the 20 million range, much as we were with Ricci Towers.
Okay. Do they have any offers, or is there any action or activity go with the property as of yet when you talk to the broker?
No, I have not heard of any activity yet on the property at all.
Okay.
But hopefully Nick and I can, get through this, all the, the underwriting and analyzing the rents and the market down there, and hopefully have an offer out early next week to them.
Yeah, I can bolt onto that. Dan and I are waiting to hear back from the broker on the actual NOI versus the pro forma. The broker's marketing was actually pretty sophisticated and clever because they were trying to position it as a very high performing asset, expected to be totally leased up by 2029. But then when we looked at the actual rents versus the expenses they shared, we're like, I think this is only cash flowing at 400,000 a year, if not negative. And obviously divided by the cap rate, it's well below 10 million. The initial rates for the apartments are strong, but not strong enough to pencil on its own. So we're going to explore, Steven, similar to Ricci, a hospitality or short-term rental component to help bolster the cash flow on it. And
Yeah, maybe the top floors could be a hospitality asset.
Yep. Or subdivided off as condos and sold.
Yeah, that too.
So we're exploring options this weekend, and like Dan said, we'll have an offer out early next week.
Great.
Yeah, be careful with insurance in Houston. It's typically really high from what I've seen, at least for multifamily, but not sure how that translates to this type of asset, but
Awesome. Thank you for that, Paul.
Yeah, one thing we don't have to worry about is zoning. It's kind of a free for all in Houston.
Yeah,
Makes our
definitely
jobs
a
a little
huge
easier.
benefit. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Fantastic. Any questions from the audience? Questions, comments, concerns?
How many units do you feel like you could put in there, Dan? And what kind of unit mix does that look like on 22 floors?
It's probably gonna be somewhat similar to Ricci, so somewhere around 400 units. That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood between 4 and 450. I don't know that exact number with what we started to look at that, but we'll mix it with studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. We'll maybe even explore what the options are and how it looks with maybe just having studios and 1 bedrooms as well as an option. But I would say in the 4 to 450 range.
Oh, at least it's almost identical to Ricci, except instead of 2 towers, it's 1 22-story tower. So I think it's about 460,000 square feet. So we'll realize close to 500 units there, depending on the mix and the utilization of other assets like retail at the bottom.
So Nick and Steve, I sent you an email earlier today that's a replay of another Neil Bawa webinar that he gave last night. And he was talking about the macroeconomic climate and talked a little bit about conversions. And he basically said, he's supportive, but he thinks there's a lot of hype around it. And he says it's very difficult to do. And then he made the comment specifically, he's really a data-driven guy, right? He says 3% of the office space in America today lends itself to hotel or multifamily conversion. I'm just curious if you've come across a statistic like that or have other data that might counter that or support that. Still 3% of all office space. That's a large number of buildings, but I'm just curious if you have any read on that.
My thought on that, and I'm not sure exactly where he's pulling that data, but that could be somewhat accurate based upon the existing ask price. Like, for example, the Ricci Towers, would be not a proponent for a conversion at the original ask price of 65 million, but suddenly it is at 25.3. So I would probably lean in and kind of agree with his assessment. And we're not yet seeing prices adjust dramatically downwards. I think that'll be kind of more driven by buyer demand and interest on it being converted to a different asset type. So kind of a long-winded answer, I would say yes. But I would probably venture to believe that would be based upon the existing ask price, which is yet to be adjusted downwards. Right.
He did say his premise is largely on the shape and size of many office buildings. It's inefficient use of space if you need windows in each unit, right? And therefore you got dead space in the middle, like you referred to. But you're right, the right cost could make that proposition quite handy. He did also in this presentation, and I urge you to just take a look at it. He says that for the next 10 years, downtown, you're going to be a dead zone, right? All that. So,
I think it's as hard as the architect and general contractor you have by your side to envision the project.
That's a great point too, because that can actually breathe life into what might be a dead deal otherwise. Yeah,
there's a handful that can do it, and you find the right ones, and they'll tell you stuff where you're like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And like even at Ricci Towers, we were walking the property, and there's a custodian closet on every single floor in the exact same area. I think it was like maybe 4 by 4 feet. And they point out to us, I'm like, oh, perfect. We can just bring down the floors and run electrical and other things through there, use as a trash chute. So, once you get in these buildings, you start seeing stuff. It's like, how can I do this? And it starts really coming together.
That's cool. Yeah, his premise was really that the office implosion that's underway and is still going to continue now for a little while, he feels like is going to crater downtown areas economically for a period of time. And his message was stay out of downtowns in major metropolitans. But that said, a lot of people still live and do business downtown. So anyway, it was an interesting presentation, and it's timely seeing what you guys have underway here.
Yep, I agree to some extent, but at the same time, if we get the price per square foot, we're talking about pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, yeah.
those buildings will be absorbed, you know, one way or another, they're gonna be absorbed
Right.
and repurposed.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty interesting. Very exciting, actually. Love what you guys are doing.
Yep, interesting times we're in right now, right?
Mhm.
Three PM Pacific. Appreciate everyone joining. You guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us individually. And keep on pushing those opportunities forward. If you have anything that you'd like for us to take a look at, take a stab at the underwriting, you know, push that forward to Christina. She'll put her email address in the chat so you guys can have that. And otherwise, thanks for joining. Have a great day, and most importantly, a great weekend. Stay safe out there.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Have a great one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.